Tonight on Monday Night Raw, we have the champion versus champion match between Raw Women's Champion Asuka and SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley. Of course, Bayley, one half of the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, also the reason she can appear on Monday Night Raw, of course. She'll also have Sasha Banks, her partner, her fellow Women's Tag Team Champion, in her corner. There's been quite a bit of speculation as to if we'll see Kairi Sane, though, in the corner of her Kabuki Warriors tag team partner Asuka. Now, the reason why I say there's been quite a lot of speculation about this is because this comes off the news, of course, that Kairi Sane is soon to be leaving WWE. Her contract is soon to expire, and she'll be returning to Japan to be closer to her family and her husband. We made a video detailing all of the details about Kairi Sane leaving the WWE in the near future. By all accounts, these next two episodes of Monday Night Raw will be her last with the company and her last two appearances with the company. There was quite a lot of speculation as to if she was actually going to appear at all. Now, the news broke over the weekend that Kairi Sane was no longer going to be with the WWE. These were going to be her last two appearances, and she was going to be returning to Japan. And then it was told that she had been cleared for competition and she was going to appear on the next two episodes of Raw. However, when the announcement came out on Friday that Bayley would be facing Asuka tonight on Monday Night Raw, the graphic had Raw Women's Champion Asuka, SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley. In Bayley's corner, you had Sasha Banks, and in Asuka's corner, you had Kairi Sane. However, after that, over the weekend, on Saturday and Sunday, there was no mention or sight of Kairi Sane at all. So a lot of people started to speculate, why have you taken Kairi Sane out of this? Why is Kairi Sane no longer in the match graphic for this? And a lot of people speculated, well, maybe she didn't appear at the Raw tapings. Of course, this Raw that we're going to see tonight and next week's Raw have already been taped. They were taped last week. And a lot of people speculated, okay, if Kairi Sane isn't in the match graphic, then it would appear that Kairi Sane won't be appearing in this match and Kairi Sane won't be appearing on WWE TV once again. However, today, randomly, suddenly, Kairi Sane is back in the match graphic. So for whatever reason, WWE have decided to add Kairi Sane back in there. Personally, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? And I don't want to sound like a complete conspiracy theory nut here, and I know I might come across like it when I say this, but don't you think that maybe they just removed her out of the match graphics over the weekend just to get people talking? Because they knew that the Kairi Sane news had broken, right? And a lot of people thought, okay, everyone thought they knew what was going on with Kairi Sane, that she was going to appear on the next two episodes of Raw. That was going to be her last two appearances with the company, and then she would be gone. When she wasn't in the match graphic over the weekend, suddenly people start talking, well, what's the situation with Kairi Sane? Is she gone? Is she already gone? Maybe I'll have to tune into Monday Night Raw to find out. Maybe I'll have to just, I don't know, keep an eye on WWE social media to find out if she's going to be on there or not. Whoever, whatever. Now we find out that she is going to be, or she's listed in the graphic anyway, to be appearing tonight. So it would appear that Kairi Sane is going to be on Raw tonight. But maybe it was just mind games by WWE, right? Maybe it was just trying to get people talking. I mean, it certainly worked. We're talking about it now. So it's an interesting one, that one. But I do expect Kairi Sane to be on Raw now tonight. And she will be in the corner of Asuka for the match. And then these are likely going to be Kairi Sane's last two appearances for WWE. She has been cleared for in-ring action and in-ring return. So I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest, by the way, that if we have the Asuka versus Bayley match tonight, and realistically, look, both females here are going to be defending their championships at Extreme Rules, right? Asuka's defending against Sasha Banks at Extreme Rules, hence why we're having this match tonight. But also Bayley is defending against Nikki Cross at Extreme Rules also. So I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if we don't have either competitor win tonight. It doesn't make any sense for either champion to lose cleanly, and I'm sure WWE will want to protect themselves against having, say, Bayley do a job here. Certainly, I don't think Asuka would do a job. It would be more likely that Bayley would do the job here, but I don't think that they will unless we have some form of interference. So I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if we don't have a victory here. It's a double count out or a disqualification, which either leads to a tag team match later on in the show, which leads to Bayley and Sasha Banks versus the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane tonight on Raw, or alternately we could have Bayley and Sasha Banks versus Kairi Sane and Asuka next week on Monday Night Raw, which would be Kairi Sane's last appearance with the company. Now, some people have speculated, and it was speculated on with online reports online, that we were actually going to see Kairi Sane be involved in some form of injury angle, either tonight or on next week's Raw, and this was going to set up Asuka's SummerSlam opponent. Now, by all accounts, that might have been changed now. Kairi Sane having a injury angle to write her off WWE TV might not be the case. Maybe they just use it next week by Sasha Banks as a way to hype up Sasha Banks versus Asuka at Extreme Rules. Either way, I think I'm really looking forward to the Asuka versus Bayley match tonight. I think it's going to be a tremendous match. Hopefully, I hope it's the main event of the show. But also, you have to factor in with these Raw shows that if you are the main event of the show and you're in the final hour, in the last segment of the show, if anything, that means you're going to be watched by the least amount of people possible, right? And the third hour just dies when it comes to viewership and it comes to people watching. So maybe it's not the best thing to actually be the main event or in the final segment of the show. Maybe it's the best thing to be in the segment at the top of the second hour, or maybe to even open the show. That's when the most people are watching nowadays. The shows don't build like they used to. The traditional pattern when it comes to Raws and SmackDowns and most shows now is that most people watch at the start and then gradually viewership dies off as we go through the show. It doesn't work like it used to where people will watch at the start, at the top of the second hour and at the end of the second hour. It doesn't work like that anymore. The most people are watching at the start. So if this opened Monday Night Raw, I think it would be a great opening, and of course it would have the most people watching it. So that's certainly a possibility as well. When it comes to Asuka versus Sasha Banks, I posted this question on Twitter, and I think it's an interesting thing to talk about here. Could and should Asuka versus Sasha Banks at Extreme Rules be the actual main event of the pay-per-view? And I look at the card so far for Extreme Rules, and I say, why not? There's no match there that stands out to me that could be more of a main event than Asuka versus Sasha Banks in terms of match quality and in terms of what could actually deliver as a proper main event. Now, do I think it will actually be the main event of the pay-per-view? 50-50 for me, 50-50. It definitely could be, and I think it definitely should be. I'm saying it definitely should be in terms of will it actually happen? I think it could be, although I do think the Wyatt Swamp fight between Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt is likely to main event Extreme Rules at this time of recording. They're calling it, first of all, they were calling it Extreme Rules, then they were calling it Extreme Rules the Horror Show, now they're calling it the Horror Show at Extreme Rules. The whole horror show narrative and the horror show vibe says to me that this show is going to be built around the Wyatt Swamp fight between Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt. However, will that be a main event? It depends on the outcome, I suppose. And some cinematic matches now, obviously at WrestleMania, they were the cinematic match was the main event on one show, not the second show. But in some cases, they haven't been the main event. Now, obviously, at Money in the Bank, the cinematic match was the main event. Backlash, that wasn't the case. I don't care what people will say. The greatest wrestling match ever between Edge and Randy Orton, that wasn't a cinematic match. He had a couple of pickup spots, but the cinematic match on that show was actually the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders and the whole ninja thing, which the less said about that, the better. That wasn't the main event of the show, so I don't think it's a guarantee that the Wyatt Swamp fight between Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt will be the main event for Extreme Rules. So I certainly think Asuka versus Sasha Banks could be the main event for that show, and I think it probably should be. I think you look at the card altogether, the WWE Championship match between Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler, I've got no problems with that match. It'll be a great match. The only problem that I have with it, and I've mentioned this before, is that it just has no stakes when it comes to it at the moment, right? We know the outcome of that match. There is no way in a million years that we are going to see Dolph Ziggler become the WWE champion at Extreme Rules. It's just not happening. It just isn't happening. Is Bayley versus Nikki Cross good enough to main event Extreme Rules? Of course it isn't. The Wyatt Swamp fight, it could be. It could be. And we obviously got other matches to be announced for the show, but I don't think any match is going to get me more excited or more interested, and to be honest, better than an Asuka versus Sasha Banks match. I think in terms of match quality, in terms of stakes, I think that match has it all. I think Asuka will still be the Raw Women's Champion, but I have no doubts it'll be the best match on the show. You look at the Io Shirai versus Sasha Banks match from the NXT Great American Bash this past week. That was tremendous, and it drew ratings, it drew live viewership. So this idea that some of the critics of women's wrestling have, that it can't draw, it doesn't draw, it's just a really outdated argument now. It's been proven wrong. It absolutely blew the Fyter Fest main event out of the water last week in terms of live viewership. So female wrestling draws. It's all about the product in the ring and the characters, and Sasha Banks and Io Shirai proved that this past week. So Asuka and Sasha Banks could easily main event Extreme Rules, and I think they probably should be. In terms of Bayley and Sasha Banks, I've also mentioned this before, so I'd like to mention it again here. We mentioned previously about Charlotte Flair, right? When Charlotte Flair was appearing on Raw and NXT and SmackDown, that she felt so overexposed, right? She felt so overexposed. It felt so unnecessary And this sort of argument that it wasn't right for Charlotte to appear on all of those shows. She's overexposed as it is. She's in title matches all the time as it is, and it just, again, it fuels the narrative of WWE only cares about Charlotte Flair. And there is a legitimate argument there to be had. I think the complete opposite is the case right now when it comes to Bayley and Sasha Banks. Bayley and Sasha Banks, ever since winning the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships, have appeared on all shows more than Charlotte Flair ever did. I think more than any female tag team has. Whenever any previous female tag team has held the Women's Tag Team Championship, they've barely appeared on the other brand. They've certainly made like one token appearance on NXT, whereas at the moment, Bayley and Sasha Banks appear consistently on Monday Night Raw. They appear consistently on NXT, and they appear obviously consistently on SmackDown because that's their brand. But I don't think they're overexposed at all. I think you just want more because they've been on that much of a roll and their characters are so compelling at the moment. I think initially they won the Women's Tag Team Championships as a way of extending this eventual Bayley and Sasha Banks showdown. Of course, they're tag team champions, it adds more stakes to when they do eventually break up and they do eventually lose the tag team titles, but also it just extended it. It gave them more time. Sasha Banks doesn't have to turn on Bayley, or Bayley doesn't have to turn on Sasha Banks too quickly because they're the tag team champions at the moment. But it's led to them appearing on Raw, NXT, and SmackDown, and they've just been great. They've been great every segment they're in. They're entertaining. They knock it out the park. Both females are tremendous in the ring. I'd argue that Sasha Banks is maybe better than Bayley in the ring, but it's a close call. So every match they have, it's great. They've appearing on commentary all the time. They've been great on there. They're entertaining as hell. And the fact that they're continuously put on Raw, NXT, and SmackDown now shows the feelings of The Office and shows the feelings of Vince McMahon and the other executives in their opinions on Sasha Banks and Bayley. They have been that good. I mentioned about Asuka maybe being the MVP of the empty arena shows in the WWE Performance Center. Now that we're kind of out of that and we've got the NXT Performance Center recruits in the audience now, maybe the MVP of this era, of the pandemic era that we're living in, or this chapter, shall I say, of the pandemic era that we're living in, the MVPs have to be Sasha Banks and Bayley. They've just been awesome. They've been absolutely tremendous. Friday Night on SmackDown, their whole promo and about the Undertaker tribute and why they should have a tribute to themselves, playing off that the Undertaker is actually great friends with Bayley and Sasha Banks, mocking him, and they had their own tribute video. It was great. On Raw, every time they're in a tag team match on Raw, it's great. Their matches on NXT, the tag match they had against Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox. Obviously, Sasha Banks' match against Io Shirai stole the show in NXT, the Great American Bash the past week, but it outdrew Fyter Fest as well. Sasha Banks and Bayley, when they've been put in these pressure situations at the moment, they are constantly delivering. And again, it just makes you realize that, okay, eventually these two are going to split up and the match that they eventually will have will be money. I think at this rate, they absolutely can and should stretch this out until WrestleMania. Some people have been saying, oh, should they have them split up by SummerSlam? They have the SmackDown Women's Championship match at SummerSlam. And of course, that's where this is heading. It's been heading this way for the longest time. But it doesn't feel like they're taking too long at the moment. I think the slower they do it, the better. I think they can absolutely stretch this out to WrestleMania. I really do. Look, nothing's really changing in the world of the pandemic that we're living at the moment. WWE, they wanted to do SummerSlam in front of a live crowd in an arena with fans. They've announced today that SummerSlam will indeed take place from the WWE Performance Center because, especially in America, obviously around the world things are different, but especially in America, when it comes to the pandemic, things aren't really changing that much when it comes to mass gatherings and having fans inside of arenas or stadiums or live events, etc. Not a lot's changing. So whilst the world, or the USA especially, is slow when it comes to the COVID pandemic, maybe WWE just needs to take it slow with the Sasha Banks and Bayley eventual them breaking up. I think that's the best thing to do here. They're entertaining on TV at the moment. Stretch it out, and we're going to be rewarded with great television. So I hope they do with that. In terms of the outcome tonight, again, I don't think we're going to see a winner. I think we're going to either see a setup for a match later on in the show or a setup for next week. In terms of Kairi Sane, are we going to see an injury angle? Maybe not. They've got to write her off TV somehow, right? They're not just going to let her disappear, or I'd hope they wouldn't. I hope they would actually have some form of resolution to her character's on-screen appearances in WWE. So maybe Sasha Banks and Bayley will... They haven't really shown... Obviously, they're heels, but they're kind of the cocky, loudmouth heels. They don't have that aggressive side yet, or that angry side yet. Obviously, they could turn that up a notch by completely wiping out Kairi Sane. Some people have speculated that Nia Jax could be the one to put her out. Kairi Sane, imagine she did. I think social media and the internet would absolutely explode. Could you imagine if Nia Jax was the one to put out Kairi Sane? Maybe WWE would do that. They are well known, especially Vince McMahon. He talks about hating, trolls on social media, but Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard and others are the ultimate trolls, aren't they? So we've had Nia Jax have two possible injury moments with Kairi Sane. Obviously, the buckle bomb, in which Kairi Sane was lucky to not get concussed, but it caused the move to actually get banned in WWE after several. It should have been banned ages ago, but that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And then, of course, we had the cut to the head of Kairi Sane when Nia Jax threw her into the steps a few weeks ago. So, could you actually imagine if Nia Jax was the one to put Kairi Sane out to pasture in WWE? I think the internet would actually explode. But really looking forward to this one. Raw sometimes, look, I do think Raw's been better the last few weeks. I really do. I think the show is improving. Not to say that I'm more of a Bruce Pritchard fan than I am a Paul Heyman fan, because I'm not. But I think what I have to praise the recent shows under Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon is I think the pacing has improved tremendously. I think it's a lot faster paced show. There's still a lot wrong with it, mainly that it's 3 hours. Sitting through 3 hours of anything weekly, especially a television show, is just nonsensical and it makes no sense. But that's a USA issue and not a WWE issue. They pay for the third hour. It still draws in more than any other block of program would in the third hour. So they're going to keep it, and WWE are going to keep it, even though it's detrimental to their product and their program. Bruce Pritchard isn't going to change anything about that. Paul Heyman couldn't change anything about that. Vince McMahon ultimately could, but I don't think he will. So obviously there are aspects of Raw I'm looking forward to tonight, but mainly the Asuka versus Bayley match. I think that'll be absolutely tremendous. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What is your opinion on tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw? Who do you think will come out the victor in the Bayley versus Asuka match? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Will you be watching Monday Night Raw? And what improvements would you make to Monday Night Raw? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We're on our way to 300 subscribers, so if you could click the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, that would be much appreciated. Or, of course, you can wait a few seconds. There'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video, along with another video for you to watch. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms as well. That's at 365Wrestle on Twitter. I'll be doing live coverage of Raw tonight on there. And you can follow us too on Instagram and Facebook at WrestleNews365. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Enjoy Raw. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.